Have you ever looked back at your life and you thought to yourself, if I had known then, back then, what I know now, all the things that I know now, I would have done things differently? Or maybe there are things that you would have said, oh, so this thing, I would have done this years ago. I would have made better choices or taken better decisions. Maybe it was money, okay? Maybe it was school. Maybe it was business, or sometimes it might just be investment, okay? Or maybe even in your relationship, okay? And relationship does not only mean dating, relationship with people, and of course, dating inclusive. Or maybe it was something that you just kept postponing, because you thought to yourself, I just need more time, okay? I need more information, or I need more confidence, or that you need more certainty, okay? This certainty thing again, okay? And then one day you looked up and you're like, huh, the time had already passed anyway, okay? Because time would always pass, okay? And you can't hold it. This happened to me today. I made one very small financial decision, and it made me realize that there is something much bigger about life than we know, okay? Now the problem is not always that we don't have what you need. Sometimes the problem is not that we don't know what to do. Sometimes we already have the money, okay? Sometimes we even know what to do with it, but we don't, okay? Or we don't do it. Sometimes we already have the idea. That's why I said sometimes you know what to do, okay? You know what to talk about. Sometimes we already even know enough to take that next step, okay? Again, emphasis on next step. But then we keep waiting and waiting and waiting because we want to know exactly. I need to know what is going to happen. We want to know exactly everything that would happen, or how everything would turn out before you make the first move, before you move. Okay. And honestly, I'm going to be honest with you. Life does not work like that. Okay. It has never worked like that, and it's not about to start now. So I want to talk to you today about something that I am learning, okay? Because I am still learning. Everybody is supposed to be learning, okay? And this is how you how to do your part, okay? How to do my part, how to stop trying to control the part that doesn't belong to you, okay? So it's not about doing your part alone, but stop controlling the part that doesn't belong to you. And why I have started telling myself, Oluwatoyin, be you and let God be God. And I'm going to start with money, okay, because this is what happened to me today. That's why I'm starting with money. But please, I want you to stay with me, because this conversation is not really a conversation about money alone, okay? So I want you to stay with me, because we're going to go into something else, a lot of other things that is not money or money related. And by the time we get into relationships, and not just romantic relationship, but relationships in general, you're going to see why this one idea can completely change the way you carry yourself, the way you carry your life, the way you run your life, the way you do things, and the way you think. Okay? It can even affect the way you think, the way you move. So please stay with me, okay? And we're going somewhere. I did something today, something that, on the surface is not really a big deal. I mean, it's actually very small. I went to the bank and I moved some money, and that's it, okay? It wasn't a big stuff like that. It's just I had some money sitting in a savings account, and it's been there for a while. And because it had been sitting there doing almost nothing, I just had the urge to go there and see what other options I have. Okay. And today, so when I went into the bank, I had someone, they told me there that, okay, I could put into a certificate or something. So I did. Okay. So it wasn't something dramatic or something, extra, extra, extra. I didn't become rich today. Okay. I did not become a millionaire today. I didn't discover something or some secret investments that nobody else knows about. I didn't do anything that would make me wake up tomorrow and become a millionaire. I can be, but that's what I did. Okay. I know I didn't wake up this morning with $1 million. I simply took the money that had been sitting in my savings account somewhere, earning almost nothing. Okay. Because that money was earning almost nothing. And I moved it from there. I moved it to a place where it could actually earn more. Not a lot more, but a little more, okay? At least it's not yielding nothing. And when they when they handed over the certificate to me, I looked at it and I looked at the maturity date. And like, oh my God, February 2028. That's 18 months. And you know this thing that will come to you and like, wait, I started thinking, 18 months, like 1 and 8. Oh my God, that's a long time. And I'm not gonna lie to you. 18 months sounded like a very long time. But then as I was sitting there, another thought came to my mind. And when that thought came into my mind, I was like, okay, this 18 months is going to pass anyway. Okay. The time would pass anyway. Whether I invest this money today or I don't, whether I do what I'm supposed to do today or not, I almost wanted to leave the bank to go back home and say, okay, I'll go back on Monday. But the thought said, why not do it now? Okay. And you see, there's something about that thought that wouldn't leave me alone. So I eventually did it. And when I did it, the thought was not even about the money anymore. It had me thinking about life. I started thinking about all the things we say we'll do. Okay. I started thinking about all the relationships, that we're supposed to initiate, the things that we're supposed to do, business you're supposed to start, and all these things, a book you're supposed to write, and then you say, I'll do it later, maybe when I have the time, maybe when I have more money, maybe when I know more because I don't know enough. Okay. Or maybe when I have more confidence. Okay. So sometimes we keep on practicing and rehearsing and doing all these things, and then sometimes it could be that you have a lot on your plate, and then you say, maybe when things settle down. Okay. Sometimes you'll be like, okay, maybe when I'm not afraid anymore, because the fear is always there. And meanwhile, the time is passing anyway. Okay. The time is not going to wait for you. You have 24 hours in a day. Whether you do it now or not, today will be over, tomorrow will come. And you know the funny thing about this whole thing, there would there would eventually come a day when that 6 months that you think is far away, or that that 1 year that you were afraid to commit to, have passed. The 18 months that you thought was too long would have passed. Okay, that day will come. The 2 years or 12 or 24 months that you didn't want to wait would have passed. As long as you keep sleeping and waking up, time will keep passing. You see, sometimes even that 3 years or that 4 years that you thought would have taken forever will also pass. And sometimes the future will now come, and then you will now realize, okay, 4 years ago, 1 year ago, 6 months ago, and then you look back at 6 years ago, 6 months ago, or 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, and you be like, okay, I wish I'd done something. I could have done something with that time. And that was a thought that wouldn't leave me alone. Okay. I started thinking about my own money because years ago, I'm going to be honest with you, there were periods where I had a relatively significant amount of money sitting in my checking account. Okay. I was working and I was piling up all the money there. And no, I wasn't reckless, okay? I wasn't reckless with my money. I wasn't spending anyhow. No, that's not what I was doing. And I wasn't overspending either, okay? That's important because sometimes when we talk about money, we assume everybody's problem is spending. You can't keep money. You keep spending money. No, that was not my case. You know, some people's problem is not that they cannot keep money. Now, some people's problem is once they see money, the next thing that comes to their mind is spending. Okay, for these people, their problem is that they they sincerely do not know what to do with the money they've kept. Okay, and that was what I was going through. Okay, that was exactly my situation because the money was there, but I didn't know what to do with it. And you see, there is a difference between saving money, okay, and knowing how to manage saved money. Okay. So when you saving means I did not spend it. I don't want to spend it, so I kept it and I didn't spend it. That's excellent. That's beautiful. Okay. You already have that skill, and that's a very good skill. But you see, there's another question that comes to you every day, or that I'm asking you now. Now that you haven't spent that money, what's the money doing for you? Okay. What is the money doing in that account? And I'm going to be sincere with you. I didn't used to ask those questions. Okay. I wasn't bothered about asking what money is doing for me. I was only interested in having my money. Okay. I knew how to leave money alone. I don't have problem with leaving money alone. Okay. As long as I'm okay, I've eaten, I'm not hungry. I knew how to participate in contribution systems, where you just keep saving money and putting money away and all that. And eventually you will receive your money back. I don't have a problem with that. Okay. Now, for some people, that structure or that arrangement that arrangement is extremely very, very important and very helpful. I'll give you an example. So if you're someone that you know that having $2,000 sitting in your account would mean that by Friday there will be Amazon packages, you buy shoes, you buy all these perfumes, you buy everything, and maybe one mysterious transaction that you cannot remember would hit your account, then maybe having a system that removes money from your account or from your reach is useful, okay? Because it is helping you solve a problem, and that problem is spending problem. But then I asked myself, what problem was it solving for me? I don't have a spending problem. I can have my money in my account, and no matter what you're selling, I won't even look at you. But when I asked myself, this money that's in the account, what problem was it solving for me? What was it doing for me? Because if I already have the discipline to not spend the money, if I already have the discipline to keep the money, and then I also have the discipline to give somebody $2,000 every month, put it away in contribution, and then 12 months later, they hand me back my money. Okay, that's $24,000. Yeah. What exactly happened? I saved. Okay. Now, I could have left that money in my account or do the contribution thing. Either ways, there is no growth. But then, what if I use this money for something else? But could the money have done something else during those 12 months? I asked myself that question today. And you see, Because the truth is, the question only became available to me today. This was something I didn't know before, okay? And this is why I keep saying that knowledge is very important. Knowledge matters. But you see, even though knowledge matters, not because knowing something makes you superior, but when you know something, it gives you options, okay? You you cannot make a choice that you don't know exists, okay? If you don't know that a choice exists, then you cannot make it. I need you to think about that. If you don't know that there are so many women that you can choose from, the first one they bring to you will be your wife, okay? Sometimes we can also look backward and say, why? And you see, sometimes we can look backward and say, so why didn't I do this 5 years ago? Why did I do this 2 years ago? The answer is simple, because 5 years ago you didn't know, you did not know, and that's knowledge, okay? You cannot choose from options you cannot see. That's just life, okay? And I'm going to say this thing, okay? This is why learning can completely change your life without immediately changing your income. Okay, you can know something can change your life without changing your income immediately. Now, you can give two persons $20,000 or three people $20,000. One person sees it as spending money and vacation and all that. That's good. That's okay. One sees it as emergency savings. Another sees it as investment capital. Another sees it as business inventory. Okay. And another may see it as a down payment. Did I say three? Sorry, multiple people. And now another would see it as maybe debt repayment. Same $20,000, but different knowledge. Okay. That's why I said knowledge is very important. Now, when they have different knowledge or different understanding, they make different decisions, and eventually they have different lives. Okay. And that's why, when people say knowledge is power and all that, I think knowledge is power, but we need to also finish that sentence, because you see, knowledge sitting inside your head is not automatically power. I said earlier that knowledge is good, knowledge is important, but until you start using it, knowledge will only become powerful when it changes what you do. There's so many people that know that they are not supposed to hurt their wives, but they do. There's so many people that know that they are not supposed to do things, but they do them. I could have learned about that certificate and still left my money where it was sitting, okay? I could have learned about that certificate and still say, no, leave it in the savings account. Now, what did knowledge change for me? If I did that, nothing, okay? But because I learned about it, I know about it, and I took action, then the knowledge became power. Okay. And honestly, henceforth, this is something I'm trying to practice. This is something I'm going to be practicing in my life. I'm going to do it anyway. And I want to encourage you to also do it anyway. Now, I'm not saying you should do it irresponsibly. Please hear me. Do it anyway does not mean don't investigate or don't think, okay? Or don't look twice before you move, or don't don't ask questions, or you know don't be curious, okay? Doing it anyway does not mean throw your money anywhere, or just go out and marry anybody, or maybe quit your job tomorrow. That's not what I'm saying. Doing it anyway does not mean you should start businesses that you don't understand. No. Or you go into things that, or contracts or investment that you don't understand. No, that is not what I'm saying. That's not courage, okay? Sometimes that's just recklessness. Okay, that's what I can say. That's what's coming to my mind. So that is doing it anyway, and doing what is wrong is not courage, it's recklessness. We have to differentiate between the two. So after you have enough information to make a reasonable decision, eventually you will have to decide. Okay, the decision is still going to be with you. You have the willpower. But you see, the truth is, some of us are not waiting for information anymore. We're waiting for certainty. This certainty again. That's what we're waiting for. Some of us already know what to do, but we're waiting for certainty, and that those are not the same thing. They're completely different. Okay. And before I move on, let me explain what I mean by certainty. Okay. Certainty means I want to know exactly how this is going to turn out before I begin. That's certainty. Okay. I want to know how this would end before I begin. And you see, life doesn't work that way, at least not always. Okay. Life rarely, let me use our word, life rarely works that way, or life rarely gives you that certainty. Yes, you can prepare. Yes, you can do your research. Yes, you can prepare for everything. You can, pray, you can fast, you can ask questions. You can also take a step further to reduce your risk. That's okay. That's good. That's wonderful. But you see, eventually, you're going to reach a point where there is nothing left to do except to move. Okay. You've studied, you've done everything, you've done your research. The only thing that is left is for you to move. And this is where something that I don't like comes in. Fear. Okay. This thing called fear has quietly stolen years from people. It has done that to me as well. So I'm also guilty. Okay. Not because they were lazy, not because they didn't know what to say, not because they didn't know what to do, not because they have no idea, not because they didn't have dreams. Okay. Not because they didn't have money. Sometimes they have the money. Not even because they are not intelligent. Sometimes you see the most intelligent people, but they simply kept saying, I'm waiting to be ready, I'm waiting for a completely safe place before I start, so that when I land safely. But what if that safety was never coming? What if what if courage is not, I am no longer afraid? What if courage is, I'm afraid but I'll do it anyways? I'll do it scared. I'll do it afraid. I'll do it not fully ready. I'll do it not knowing what the next thing would, where I'll be in the next 10 years, but I know the next step. I'm afraid, but I have enough information to take the next responsible step. Now, that is courage, okay? And please, emphasis on the next step. I didn't say next 20 years. I didn't say next decade, okay? I said next step, because sometimes we we have not even taken the next step, but we start terrifying ourselves by trying to solve an entire life at once. Okay, you want to solve the problems that will come in the next 25 years? No, solve the one that will come tomorrow. You don't have to know what your business will look like 10 years from now. Okay, you just need to take the next responsible step. What is the next responsible step? That's what you should ask yourself. You don't need to figure out your entire financial future tonight. You don't need to have it figured out tomorrow. Okay. What you need to ask yourself is, what is the next responsible step? Okay. You don't need to know exactly who you're going to become in the next 25 years, or next 5 years, or next 10 years. You just need to know what is the next responsible step. Okay. Responsible step. Okay. You don't even need to know who you will marry in the next 5 years. You just need to be a better woman. Okay. Because sometimes our life gets overwhelmed because we're standing in places where you're not supposed to. Come on. Okay. You're 25, but you want to know what will happen when you're 47. Okay. You've not even taken the first step. You want to take the 25th step when it hasn't even introduced itself yet. You need to move. You need to learn. You need to adjust. You have a lot of adjustment to do. Okay. And when you move, I'm not saying it's going to be easy or so, but you need to move. You need to adjust and then move again. That is how life works a lot of time. Okay. That person, that mentor that you admire so much, they didn't get there in one day. They didn't get there in one day. They didn't start yesterday. Okay. Just be you and let God be God. Okay. Do your part. Okay. You're supposed to plant, God is supposed to water. I mean, you're supposed to plant, Apollo is supposed to water, and God gives the increase. Okay. And there's this Christian sentences that we say, and everybody shouts amen, and say that you just do your part and leave the rest to God. Yes, I know, but that's not necessarily what I'm saying today. Okay, because sometimes we say it and we don't do our part. We just say amen and we leave. No, I'm saying be you and let God be God. And to me, when I say be you, it means accept your responsibility. You have to be responsible. Okay, do what is yours to do. I mean, are we not grateful to God that God did not ask us to do what He is supposed to do? All you need is, all you need to do right now is to learn, to prepare, to ask questions, to make decisions, to set boundaries sometimes, to work, of course, because you have to work, okay? And then you save. And then when you save, you invest wisely, okay? Sometimes you need to apologize when you're wrong. You need to leave something that is destroying you, okay? Sometimes you need to speak when you need to speak and be quiet when you need to be quiet, okay? You need to know how to step back when you have done enough. You need to know when to do what you're supposed to do. You do the right things at the right time. You try, okay? You do your best, you try, you apply, you create something, you show up, okay? Those are human responsibilities. Those are the things that you're supposed to do. And then after doing all of this, you let God be God, okay? Now, what this means is that you need to stop demanding from yourself the ability to control everything that happens after you have done your part. Let me explain what that means. You see, life can become so exhausting when you do your part. Let's say you hurt someone, you apologize, you don't force them to forgive, but you apologize sincerely, okay? But then we don't only want to make the decision, we sometimes want to control the outcome. And that's tiring, okay? That's a lot of work to do. And you see, I'm going to be honest with you. Those two things are not the same. They are not. They are completely different. When you do what you're supposed to do, you cannot want to control the outcome. Okay. Let me give you an example. I can decide to start a business today, but I cannot command or force customers to come. You see that? I don't even know where my customers, my other business, my cake business, I don't know where my customers in the next week or next month will come. I can do my work. I can create my cakes, but I cannot force somebody to recognize the value of what I create. You see that? I can invest responsibly. Okay. I cannot control the entire economy. You see that? Now, if there is an opportunity or something, I can apply for that opportunity. I can apply for the contract. I can bid for the contract. But I cannot climb inside another person or inside their mind and make them choose me. You can't. Okay? Another example is if you need to tell somebody something, maybe the truth, you can tell them the truth, but you have absolutely no control whether they believe you or not. So I can tell you my truth, I can tell you the truth about what happened, but I cannot control whether you're going to trust or believe me or not. Okay? I can apologize to you, but I cannot force you to forgive me. I can't force forgiveness. That is you, that is your responsibility. And then when it comes to loving, I can love someone, I can love you wholeheartedly, but I cannot force you to love me properly. You can love people, you can show them that you care, You cannot force them to reciprocate. Do you see the difference? There is your responsibility, and then there is control, okay? There is responsibility, which is your part, and then there is control. And sometimes the reason we suffer in life is because we confuse the two. Okay, we think if I'm responsible for doing my part, if I do what I'm supposed to do, maybe, just maybe, I am also responsible for making everything work. But no, it doesn't work that way. You're not responsible for making everything work. God said all things will work together for your good. He didn't say you will make all things work together for your good. And psychologically, this is very, very important. Now, let me explain what I mean when I say psychologically. I am just simply talking about what is happening inside our minds, how we think, how we interpret situations, and how we respond to things emotionally. There's something called agency, okay? And agency is, how do I explain it? Okay. Agency simply means I understand that my choices can affect my life, okay? You have control over your choices, but you don't have control over the consequences. So I understand that my choices can control my life. I understand that I am not powerless. I may not control everything, but there are things that I can do. That's agency. I cannot control everything, but there are movements that must come from me. Okay. And agency is very healthy. Okay. Agency is good, it's wonderful, it's amazing. Because imagine living your living your whole life or your entire life believing that nothing I do matters. There's nothing I do that matters. Whatever happens, happen. What will be, will be. There's no point trying. You see that? Or maybe you go about your life saying, well, life just happens to me. Or, you know, it is what it is. Something like that. You see, when you go about your life like that, eventually you will stop trying. You will stop acting. You will stop doing things. You will stop making decisions. Okay? And that's not a good place to be. But you see, there is another extreme. No, no, I take that back. Now, that's a good place to be. Okay? But not really, really good like that. Okay? Now, there is another extreme again that you start believing everything is my responsibility. Okay? If the business doesn't work, it's my fault. It's if I fail, it's my fault. Okay? If customers don't come, it's my fault. Maybe I should have explained better. Okay? If someone doesn't understand me and I do my best to explain again and they still don't understand me, it's my fault. If somebody mistreats me or maltreats me, maybe I need to become easier to love. Maybe I need to talk more. Maybe I need to explain myself more. Now, I'm not saying communication is not good. You have to communicate. But you cannot force the other person to understand you. Okay? If someone leaves you, you will start asking yourself, what should I have done differently? Okay? Or maybe your child struggles and then you tell yourself, I must have failed. Or maybe someone is angry with you because of your boundary, because you established a boundary or something, and then you start saying things like, maybe I shouldn't have, I shouldn't have established this boundary. Now, that's also not a good place to be because now you have moved from responsibility to over responsibility. So the first part is you not doing anything. The second part is you wanting to do everything. Okay. Now, the middle ground is taking ownership. Okay. You have to take ownership and be responsible. Somebody else's reaction is always sometimes um, a consequence of your action. However, there are things that you couldn't possibly have known. There are things that you there are mistakes that you will make. There are circumstances that you cannot control. Sometimes there are outcomes that would depend on 10 or 100 different factors. And then when you take all of that and place it on your own head, and then you wonder why you're tired, that's a very that's not a good place to be either. Okay, you have to come, there must be a middle ground. And that is where I say, be you and let God be God. You cannot be under responsible or overly responsible, and then you want to take everything into your hands, or you don't want to do anything. No. And when I say let God be God, it means you give him permission. Okay, you you give him permission to take over, and you give yourself permission to remember that you're human. Okay, you don't know everything. You don't know everything. Okay, you cannot predict everything. No, you cannot. You cannot prevent every disappointment. No, you cannot. Even if you want to, you can't. Okay, you cannot make every person choose correctly. No, you cannot. Even if you take them there, they will still choose what they want to choose. Okay, that's willpower. Okay, you also cannot guarantee that every decision you make will produce the exact result that you hope for. No, no. You are not God, okay? Your responsibility is not omniscience, okay? And by omniscience, I mean omniscience. Is that it? Yeah. Means knowing everything, okay? Um, that's not your job. You can't know everything. Your job is to make the wisest decision that you can based on the information that is available to you. Okay. Your job is to do your best based on what you know. And that's why you have to keep learning so that you can know more. Okay. And then sometimes you just have to, you do your best and you just have to release it. Okay. And I know that that's difficult. Sometimes it's so difficult, especially intelligent people. And sometimes, maybe for people who have experienced things that taught them life lessons, taught them that, being unprepared is very dangerous. It can be easy, it can be hard for them to let go. But you need to understand that sometimes the control isn't really about control. Control is about fear, okay? Sometimes when you say you want to control something, it's because you're afraid, you're scared, okay? If I, you say to yourself, if I just think through every possibility, maybe nothing can surprise you. You're not God, okay? God is the only one who nothing catches by surprise, okay? I didn't say it, okay? It's just, it is what it is, okay? You want to say that, oh, I understand that if I did it this other way, if I did better, it would have treated me better. You have to do better, but you cannot control the other person. Maybe if I prepare for, every possible disaster, maybe I won't be hurt. That's a lie, okay? Some people will come to you for this purpose of hurting you. They will manipulate you. They will do it. Or maybe you say to yourself, maybe if I make better decision, or if I'm careful with my decision, I won't make the wrong decision. That means you don't want to be human, okay? And if you do that, there will be a hidden cost, okay? If you don't take steps, if you don't do things, if you never choose because you don't want to choose incorrectly, then there will be consequences because you still have to make a choice, okay? So if you're not choosing, if you're not doing things that you're supposed to do, you're choosing inaction, okay? And inaction have consequences too, okay? I talked about this in one of my books about reading, okay? If you're not reading, you're not leaving your mind to nature. No, something else is controlling and occupying and training your mind. So when let's say you have money in your account and you don't move the money to, where you get high yielding, to where you get more interest or something, the money will still be in your account, but it will not work for you. Okay. Or maybe you put it in savings account, it will yield a very, very low interest for you. So not moving the money is not an indecision, it's still a decision. You see that? If you know you're supposed to start a business and you don't start, it's not indecision. It is still a decision. Okay. If you know you're supposed to leave a relationship and you don't leave, that is still a decision. If you know you're supposed to speak out or tell someone your mind, in a good way, in a calm way, and you're not speaking, it's a decision. If you know you're supposed to choose something, you choose wisely and you're not choosing, that is still a choice. Okay. And sometimes you see, we treat this inaction as though it is neutral because it feels safer. No, it doesn't. Excuse me. It's not safer because life will keep moving while we are still standing. Okay. So if you're standing still here like this, life will still move. And that's why this statement or this sentence, the time will still pass anyway, is so powerful to me. So powerful to me because imagine someone saying, I want to I want to go back to school, but it will take 4 years. Okay, excellent. All right. But how old will you be 4 years from now if you don't go to school? I want to do something in 2 years, but you didn't start it. How old would you be if you don't start it? Now let's go back to the school analogy. If you don't start that school now, how old will you be in 4 years? You'll still be 4 years older. Okay. So the question is not going to be, will 4 years pass? No, because it will pass. The question will be, who will I be when those 4 years have passed? You see that you want to start creating content, you want to sell something, you want to start a business, you want to do something, do it now, okay? As long as it's legal, it's legitimate. Same with money, okay? If you want to save, do it now. Don't leave the money in the account and then in 1 month has passed, okay? 18 months will pass, 24 months will pass. Something is always changing. A year will pass, okay? Now, same with healing. Someone broke your heart, and these two shall pass. Time will pass, okay? If you refuse to heal, time will still pass. If there's something you need to learn and you refuse to learn it, time will pass, okay? Now, I need you to understand that this does not mean every long term goal is automatically worth pursuing. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying is sometimes it's better to quit now, okay? If you're doing something that is not what you can quit and start another thing, okay? But sometimes, not starting is bad, okay? Sometimes I know that the numbers may not make sense. Sometimes, it's starting that business may be a bad decision, or staying on your job when you're supposed to start a business, or starting a business you're supposed to learn or something. That's not, you also you need discernment as well. But don't use the passage of time as your reason for refusing something that is worthwhile when the time is going to pass anyway. Okay? If I'm doing a job that pays me $10 per hour and I have the opportunity to do something that will pay me better, time will still pass. Okay? And this is where it becomes even more interesting, right? Because there are actually things that that happen in many areas of our lives. Three things, okay? There is your job, okay? And then there is time's job, okay? There is your job, there is time's job. And if you believe in God, as I do, there is God's job, okay? Now, this is becoming interesting because you can get in trouble when you try to do all three, okay? You will get in trouble if you try to do your job, time's job, and God's job. Let me give you an example of what I mean. If you plant a seed, are we not even, we should be grateful that God said, You do the planting and I will make it grow. Because imagine God says he will do the planting, now you make it grow. How do you make a tree grow? How? Anyways, your job is to plant it properly. Okay, you water it, plant in the right environment, water it, put it in a place where it can receive what it needs, the light and everything that it needs to grow, right? Protect it when you can. Okay, protect the plant when you can. But now imagine planting the seed and tomorrow morning you are digging it out of the soil. You see that? Or you plant it now and after a week you go back, or after 3 days you dig it out. Are you growing? You're looking at it and you're like, are you growing or not? You see that? But when you plant it and you leave it there and you water it and you do everything, you come back again and nothing is happening. Okay? And then you dig it out again and you're like, are you growing? No, you don't do that. When you do that, you're going to kill the plant. Okay? And then the next day you do the same thing. God, you know, sometimes God will just be looking at us like, okay, this you keep interfering in this thing. Just leave it alone. Sometimes that interference is the very thing that is disrupting what God has planned for you. Okay. There are processes that require time without constant interference. When you plant a seed, you're supposed to leave it alone and let it grow. You don't go back and say, oh, will you grow? Are you growing? No. Money compounding is also the same. It's like that. Okay. Learning is another thing. Building credibility is another thing. You put your money in the bank. They tell you 24 months. You don't go back there after 24 hours and say, my money. No. Another thing is trust. You need time for these things. And you see, relationship is definitely, in fact, you need time for that, okay? But before we get into relationship, let's even stay with life, okay? Let's stay with it because you see, some things cannot be rushed simply because you're finally ready. You cannot have 9 babies in 1 month by impregnating 9 women, okay? You have to wait 9 months. I know it's painful. You can decide today, I'm changing my life. Maybe you've been preparing for the past 1 year. The day you start is the day you start, okay? You can plan, you can prepare, you can do everything. That's beautiful. But you see, tomorrow morning, you may still wake up inside the life you had yesterday, okay? That does not mean something is not happening because once you take the step, you're not going to get the results immediately. Now, sometimes you do, but most times you don't. And that's why people get discouraged. They think, oh, but I decided. But I started making YouTube videos today. I know that there's grace and, God can do anything, but my decision and my direction they're different. Okay, I can make a decision, but you have to let time work on it. Okay, if I'm driving towards Dallas, I need a direction. Okay, if I realize that I'm going the wrong way and I turn around, the moment I turn around, my direction changes. The decision is to drive to Dallas. Okay, if the direction is going to San Antonio, I am not going to be in Dallas no matter how fast I drive. But you see, if I keep moving in the right direction, eventually I will get home. But am I home yet? No. Now, sometimes we don't give ourselves credit for, all these things that we do, the when we change direction or when we do it better, just because we have not reached our destination. But no, the fact that you are moving in the right direction, or maybe you're in the wrong direction and you turn around, it matters a lot. Okay. Now, saving your first $100 matters. Okay. Investing your first $1,000 matters. Posting your first video matters. Okay. Getting a book, okay? Getting a book and reading the first chapter matters. Setting the first boundary matters, okay? Even if you have made mistakes, you can still set the boundary. Saying the first no matters. Okay. If something is going on with you and you need to go to therapy, okay, going for the first time matters. Okay. If you have made mistakes in your life, you can begin again, you can start over again. Beginning again matters, not because you have arrived, not because you know how it's going to end, no, but because you're no longer traveling in the wrong direction. You see, that's why I said decision and direction are completely different. Okay. And you see, when you let time do its thing, when time gets involved, this is why you see consistency is very powerful. Okay. And no, consistency is not exciting. It's not exciting. It's powerful, but no, it doesn't give you butterflies. Okay. I know that nobody wants to hear do something sensible repeatedly for 10 years, or do something sensible repeatedly for 5 years. We want to hear things like, oh, three things that will make you a millionaire tomorrow. Okay. Three things that, billionaires know that you don't know. But a lot of life is boring. Okay. A lot in life that gives you result is boring. Okay. Saving is boring. Investing is boring. Learning is boring. Reading is boring. Reading is boring. Sometimes working is boring. Rest is boring. Repeating things over and over and over again is boring. Improving on yourself is not exciting. Okay. Adjusting sometimes hurts. Repeating things hurts. Okay. But then when you meet people after doing the same thing for 10 years, you look at them and say, oh, you're so lucky. No, they're not lucky. Okay. You've missed episodes of their life where they missed opportunities, or when they did it over and over again, one through maybe nine or maybe 100 times before they got it right. And that's why I'm becoming less impressed by, every dramatic moment, and, impressed by system or dramatic moments. But now I am impressed by systems. Okay. Because system is simply something that would repeatedly do that thing that would make your desired outcome more likely. Okay. Now, it is not guaranteed, but it's more likely. System would put you in a place where even when you don't have the motivation, you do it. Okay. There's a distinction there. Okay. Savings doesn't guarantee wealth, but it makes financial stability more likely. Okay. It makes you more financially stable. Okay. Exercise doesn't guarantee that you will never become ill or you will live longer, but it can improve your health. You see that? Studying doesn't guarantee that you'll be the most successful person in your profession, or that you're going to be the most successful person at your work or something, or your job or something, but it can increase competence. You see that? Learning new skills, learning relationship skills doesn't guarantee that you will never experience heartbreak. No, because you don't know the intention of the other person. But it can help you recognize unhealthy patterns. And you can recognize it earlier and make wiser choices. Okay. Life would always give us very few guarantees. That's one thing that I've come to observe, or that I'm observing, or that I've observed. But you see, wisdom would allow you to improve possibilities. Okay. Life will not give you guarantee, but when you are wise, it's better. Okay. You need to and another thing is, we need to stop asking, can you guarantee that this would work? No. Maybe we should start asking ourselves, does this make the outcome I want more likely? Because if you require guarantees before you begin, or before you act, or before you start something, you, my friend, my brother, my sister, my daddy, my mommy, you may never move. Okay. You may never ever move. If you require guarantee before you do what you're supposed to do, you may never ever move. Okay. It's been a long day. So I'm going to I'm going to stop there, and then in the part two we're going to go into the relationship part because I'm so excited about that. You know, I love relationship and all that. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe, like, share with your friends, and remember, be you and let God be God. Do your part and let God be God. Because whether you move today or not, time will pass anyway. Whether you take the step today or not, time will pass anyway. And you're not going to be the same age next year. You're going to grow older. Okay. So start whatever it is that you need to start. Start now. Start scared. You're not fully ready yet. Start. Okay. Competence doesn't come before action, it comes after several actions. Okay. After you've taken several steps, that's where confidence grows. Okay. I love you, and I'll see you in the next conversation. Bye.